Hey, what's up, motivators? Taren here. Thank you for tuning in to today's interview with Ashley Hankamp, who is a motive mover. Now, she is part of our group of ambassadors that are out there in the world spreading the vibes that anyone can do endurance sports, no matter what your background is. Now, in the case of Ashley, she is a busy mom. She's known as Tri-Mom of 4 because she has 4 kids. She has a full-time job as a teacher, and she is living with a chronic illness that she talks about in this podcast. So there are all kinds of reasons that she would have thought, hey, I can't do this. Time commitments, health commitments, work commitments, and she got over those because she had the goal of getting into endurance sports, doing triathlons, and she's just thrilled. If you follow her online, you know that she has like one of the nicest and happiest smiles because she's just thrilled about being in the sport. So if you're a busy person and you're maybe doubting that you have the time to do it, this is a great interview because you can see that like the busiest person here has been able to do endurance sports and enjoy it and be thrilled about it and spread that good vibe that we can all do this. My name is Taren Gazelle. In my 20s, I was overweight, unfulfilled, and couldn't even run to the end of the block. Over the following years, I found endurance sports, lost 65 pounds, won age groups, raced world championships, broke records, and trained and learned from some of the best athletes and coaches in the world. You too can use endurance sports to change your life and accomplish your fitness goals. You just need a system that's meant for us amateurs who want to be our best while feeling our strongest and healthiest. My company Motive offers that system, and I want to share some of the tips from it today. So let's talk. Like, I actually don't know everything about your background with how you got into this. I've followed you for years now, and we've talked a lot over the last few months, but I don't know how you got into the sport exactly. Like, where were you? Position me. Where were you at in life, family-wise, work-wise, even emotionally, before you got into endurance sports? Because I find that there's always like a trigger that gets people into thinking, hey, maybe I should do this.
Okay. Well, I always grew up playing sports. I've enjoyed, doing 5Ks, 10Ks, but I played basketball in college. So that's kind of where my love for sports started. And then, got married, had kids, and triathlon wasn't really on my radar till probably I had my twins. So probably about 6 years ago, I had a friend and a physical therapist that did triathlons, and I always thought that was really cool, but I didn't know how to swim. So I was like, someday I want to learn to swim and do a triathlon, but I told myself I'd probably never do more than a sprint triathlon just because, I had little kids at home and I didn't think I had the time to, prepare for races. And so after I had my twins, the PT I was seeing, I actually had patella tendonitis from running because I only ran and probably strength trained. And so I was seeing her and she kind of shared her triathlon story with me, and she's done a lot of Ironman events, and then she qualified for Worlds. And so I just was fascinated by her story, and she kind of got the ball rolling for me. And I took some swim lessons with one of the teachers that I work with, and I watched a lot of your YouTube videos to kind of get comfortable in the open water. Probably the open water swimming was the biggest thing that held me back. I was terrified about, the big lakes and just being out there in the deep water. So that held me back for a long time, but just kind of meeting up with other triathletes kind of got my foot in the door, and then I was hooked immediately. So
what was the draw to it? Why did you want to try that? Because it hurts and it's painful and it's scary. So like, why did you want to do that?
Right. Like I said, I've always been into sports, so I think I love the competitiveness of triathlons, and I love the piece of always trying to do just a little bit better each time you race or, each workout, try to improve. And so I think that was probably the main start. But then once I met other triathletes, they were very inviting and kind of, welcoming. And I think just the community kind of drew me in.
And did you think right from the start that you'd be able to do it, or did it take a while to build up the confidence?
It took a while, especially the swimming piece, because like I couldn't even swim across the pool. And there was times when I was like, I was embarrassed, or, I was like, oh, I suck and I'm not going to be able to swim, 750 yards or whatever it is for the sprint. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. Just the breathing piece. And just sticking with it and practice and using your tips. And I finally got comfortable with that swimming piece, and then things came together.
How did you get through that? Because like you got through that, and I'll share with everyone listening that when we had the last Motive Movers and Ambassador group meeting that we all did on Zoom, we had Joanne Courtney, who's the newest of everyone, like coming from elite athletics in curling, and you'd think like confident, would be able to do absolutely everything, boom, right off the start. And the first thing we led with was like, Joanne, hey everyone, Joanne is afraid of the swim and not sure that she's going to be able to do it. And everyone, I think, has that learning experience where it's very scary. There's a lot of self-doubt, but how people get through it is very different for everyone. How did you get through that?
Well, I think one positive thing that came out of COVID was that the pools were closed. So if I wanted to improve my swimming, I didn't have a choice but to get into the lakes. So I got, my swim buoy, and I think that was probably my lifesaver. And, I stuck close to shore, and I always had someone there as my spotter, either, one of my kids in a kayak or a paddleboard, or, and I just kind of started swimming, dock to dock, and okay, this time I'm going to go a little bit farther. And then there's a local triathlon group in my area that would meet up for group swims. And Ron Knoll, I actually just kind of randomly met him on the beach when his group was swimming. And he helped me a ton and gave me a lot of pieces of information, insight on how to kind of mentally prepare myself in the open water. So yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people ask me, how do you get over the panic? And well, we've got this like learn to swim program, the exact system. That's all fine and dandy for being in the pool because it's super controlled. But then when you get into open water, really uncontrolled. So I don't really have a system for that because it's like trying to put this perfect system into an imperfect environment. It just doesn't work. And when I think back to what I did, it was exactly what you did. It was, okay, I'm going to swim from this dock to that dock 2 doors down at the lake. And then maybe I can make it 3 doors down. And then maybe I can make it 4. The couple of things that I did that I found helpful was I would go out with a family member in a kayak. So I always knew that if I freaked out, everything was going to be fine. I grabbed the kayak. And then I did a lot of my swimming at the start in a shallow lake, a shallow man-made lake where I could see the bottom and I could almost always stand up. So if anything bad happened, I wasn't going to have that enormous, terrible panic response. It would be like a small little one, get over it, go again. And just the more I did it over and over and over, especially in a wetsuit, helped because you got that nice buoyancy. And if things...
And that's what I told myself too, is like, okay, if I panic, I just sit there and float, I can float in a wetsuit and I have that buoy and I'm close to shore, and just those reminders kind of helped.
Yeah. What's everything that you have going on in life? Because your handle is Try Mom of 4. You're mom of 4. What else do you have going on?
Okay, so I have 2 middle schoolers, and then my twins are in kindergarten. Well, they're going into 1st grade, so just juggling them, and they're all in multiple sports. But I'm an elementary art teacher, and so I teach kindergarten through 6th grade art full time. So I see about 600 kids in the course of a week. So it's a busy, busy day. But yeah, just juggling school and my own kids, and trying to be a good wife, and all those little pieces, and balancing it all, I guess.
How have you been able to balance it? What tools, what tips, what strategies have you used? Because that's several full-time jobs there in a row, just managing the family and the job, and then add endurance sports on top of it, which is just a black hole of time sucking.
It kind of is. I'm an early morning person, so I have to get it done early. Otherwise, kind of my motivation kind of decreases as the day goes on. And when I first started triathlon training, I always wanted to make sure that I didn't take time away from my kids, because they're only little ones and that time goes fast. So I do basically all my training before the day starts. really early in the morning and get it done, and then get the kids ready for school, and then I get off to work. Having the summers off does help a ton, so I have a little more flexibility in my time during the summer, so that does help. But yeah, those early mornings, those are my jams. So get it done early, and everything falls into place. So.
And what are all the races that you've done? Like, you don't have to give me every single individual race, but what are all the types of races and distances you've done?
Okay, so last year was my first year racing. Technically, 2020 would have been my first year, and there wasn't any races going on. So I did a couple virtual ones with friends, just a virtual sprint and a virtual Olympic. And I was like, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. And then, 2021, I kind of signed up for every race I could find. Luckily, in Michigan, we have a lot of little lakes. So there are a lot of local triathlons. So I think I did 2 sprints, 3 Olympics, and then my end of the year one was Michigan 70.3 up in Frankfurt. And so, yeah, so that was last year. And then this year I've done 2 sprints, 1 Olympic, and then in a few weeks I'm going to do Musselman, New York 70.3. So, so kind of build it up. So it kind of eased into it this season, and then my big 70.3 in July. And then after that, I had age group nationals that I qualified for last year. So it's kind of a lot going on. So I don't know who will break first, me or my husband. I'm hearing a little bit from him, but yeah.
Which distance do you like the best?
Well, I've only done one of those 70.3s, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be.
No.
I kind of played it safe because I was like, well, I never even ran a half marathon before that. So my 70.3 was my first half marathon. So I was worried about the run piece, and I came into triathlons as a runner, but I was worried about, just completing it, and it went really well, and it felt good. But I kind of think maybe that Olympic distance might be my perfect distance, just because it doesn't quite take the time that a 70.3 does with the kids for training wise, but I think there's something about each distance that I really enjoy, and there's probably a couple of things that I don't love, a ton, but it's something about each distance that I love. So
yeah, I was chatting with somebody the other day saying that he hoped that the Olympic distance would catch on more and be more of the goal for more people, because he's like, that distance is perfect. You can do maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours every single day, or an hour during the week, throw in 2-hour workouts on the weekend, or like a couple of 2-hour workouts on the weekend, and very, very manageable. And you start getting into halves. I think halves can still be done really well with basically the same training during the week, and then a little bit longer for a few months on the weekend, but you still do have to have like those 4-hour rides a couple of times before a half to really feel confident, in my opinion. And then an Ironman is just like all encompassing and not super practical every single year. And he said, like, I just wish people would aspire to do those Olympics more, because it's so accessible for so many people. Like, I never thought about that, where it's like everyone just sort of views Olympics as the stepping stone to the real triathlons. Like, no, it's a real triathlon. If you've ever done an Olympic and really hammered it, you know how hard it is.
Oh, for sure. And I think it really prepares you for those 70.3s going all out for that Olympic distance.
Yeah. Which one did you have the most doubts about being able to do?
Well, my very first one was the Olympic. The first one I ever did was the Olympic distance. And, I was scared to do that. Just that swim is long, just getting into triathlon. So I had a lot of doubt for that one. In the water, in Michigan, it was in May. The water was, I think, 57 degrees. So that was, pretty chilly for me. But I was really scared to do that 70.3. Like I said, I have never done that half marathon run before. So I knew I could get through the swim, because really the swim's not too much farther than the Olympic swim. So I knew I could get through the swim, and then the bike is kind of my strong area. So I knew I could finish that. And then, but I was worried about finishing that run, just, nutrition and, just aches and pains. Like I said, I was a basketball player, so I always worry about my knees and ankles, but it all worked out. So
can you describe, you said scared. What did scared feel like?
I think, like, like I said, with the nutrition, like I think, like you see those videos of people like crawling over the finish line.
You're
That's what I
you're
do
worried
not
you
want.
yeah, that's what I hear from everyone. They're like, I do not want to be that person. And that
No,
that person comes along like once every 10 years and somehow there's always a camera there to witness it.
right, right.
But
Well, I do
everyone is
think
like, I don't want to be
no,
that person. Like, yeah, that's not every
no,
race.
no. So I think, I just wanted to be strong for my kids, and I knew they'd be there cheering me on, and the race was close to my parents, and I have 7 brothers and sisters, and most of them live up by my parents. So the race it was almost like a hometown race, just because I had so much family up there, and so I just wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could do, and I represented my family well, and I just didn't want to fail. I guess, yeah. Scared of not finishing.
Well, here's a question. Somebody said this to me yesterday and they said, like, when have you ever failed, Taren? And I said, like, as an investment advisor, I definitely failed. I wasn't very good at that. And then they pushed me again. They said, what else? I'm like, not a lot. Thinking here I was being the tough guy. Like, oh yeah, I haven't failed that much in my life. And they said, that's not really healthy, where if you've never failed and you've never realized that failure or subperformance doesn't ever result in a bad thing, like it's just something that happens, it's not bad or good, you get wired to only succeed, and you become very, very fearful of failure because you don't ever experience it. She said, like, failure is where you grow, and failure is where you it's where you become a better version of yourself. And then the successes all of a sudden mean a lot more. Was there anything in the preparation that maybe you didn't fail in the race, but you had a little bump in the road and you went, oh, okay, here's where I can learn from that and become better? Because it's maybe it's not a big failure, but those micro little failures along the way.
Right. I think first getting into it, I was, so gun ho of, just doing the best that I could, that I kind of let some other pieces go to the wayside, like my strength training and like mobility work. And so that first year, even though it was during COVID, I actually had a lot of injuries because I wasn't maintaining, those strength workouts and those mobility workouts. So I learned a lot from that first year that kind of helped me to build on my second and, my third year this year. So I think those were 2 big pieces. But I also look back like at those first races that I did, I felt like I learned something at every race. So I might have had all these little pieces that did not go well, but those are probably the best things that could have happened, because then it prepared me for all my future races. So those failure pieces are good, learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm. We need to take a quick second to thank a sponsor. Athletic Greens is a product that I use literally every single day. I like Athletic Greens as a replacement for a traditional multivitamin. Athletic Greens is made with whole foods. It contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, and because it is made from whole foods and you can mix it up as a greens powder in a shake or whatever you want, it's much easier for your body to actually absorb. If you go to athleticgreens.com/Taren, you will get a free year's supply of vitamin D with your first purchase and 5 free travel packages. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Taren to get yourself some Athletic Greens. Everyone that I know that's tried it has absolutely loved it, so you will too. Give it a shot. Yeah, if I think about what allowed me to do my best race times in 2018 and 19, those were by far my best performances. That was when I had PBs at half Ironman, sprint, everything were the PBs in those last 2 years. It was because of the 2017 year where all I did was sweet spot threshold training. And here I was thinking I was just nailing it and like succeeding on all levels and crushing it. But it was actually undoing me health-wise. And it made me actually start training easier, polarize my training, have a big amount of training that was low intensity. And then magically I started getting faster. I was actually at a training camp with Matt Dixon from Purple Patch Fitness. And he said, it seems like you're training really well. I went, yeah, I'm actually training easier. He went, huh. And you got faster. Go figure. Because he's a very big proponent of kind of taking the piss out of everything having to be hard. And he's like, go figure. You train less and get faster.
Right.
Like, yeah, bizarre. Eh? He's like, no kidding. Yeah. So let me ask you this now. If you're talking to moms, busy people, people who are in a similar situation to yourself, and they are who you were 4 years ago, thinking about the race, but thinking, oh, I can't do it because of X, Y, Z, whatever it might be. What do you think the lies are that they're telling themselves? Or maybe what were the lies that you were telling yourself that you look back and you go, you know what? You just have to get over yourself and realize that those aren't true. You can do this.
I would say the time piece, like everyone says, oh, I don't have time. But I mean, I feel like my life is really busy with, my kids in sports and working full time. And I mean, if it's something you really want to do, I think you can always find, little chunks in your day. And I mean, sometimes I break up my workouts. I'll do, one chunk in the morning, and maybe I'll do just a mini strength session while my kids are at the playground or something. So I think it's fine to break up your training if you have to, but I think that time piece is probably the biggest lie that people tell themselves. Like a couple weeks ago, I was doing a ride, a course preview ride with another girl, and she was telling me that she was asked what races I did, and I said I did a 70.3 last year. She goes, oh, I don't have time for that. And I was like, yeah, it does take a little bit more time than the sprint Olympic. And she goes, yeah, I got 2 kids at home. And I was like, oh.
That's adorable.
We're home. And she's like, oh, well, I work full time. I was like, yeah, so do I. So I think it's just, how you want to invest your time, whether it's, scrolling through social media or, sitting and watching a TV show, or, it's how you want to spend those, little spare minutes you find during the day.
Was it less time than you expected?
I think so. I mean, there's a little bit of balance of both. I mean, I could definitely do it with less time, but just the competitive person that I am, like, if I do something, I want to do the best that I can. So, I probably am guilty of maybe trying to do too much, where it's like, okay, you don't have to do all this. It's okay to, back off just a little bit. But I think that's one piece that I struggle with, was like, oh, I could do more. But I think I learned, last year and this year that more isn't always better. You gotta, be conscious of how your body feels, listening to your body. And, if you're tired, you need to rest, and just kind of that balance.
How many hours did you think it was going to take beforehand? Because it was, in my case, the thinking about the time was so long ago, I can't remember how long I expected I was going to have to train each week. And I think as a community, we don't do a good job of making training feel accessible to people, because we very quickly ramp up to 7, 10, 12 hours. And then when we're there, it seems like all we talk about with non-triathletes or non-endurance athletes is how much we're training. So everyone from the outside is just like, whoa, that's not exercise. Like, that is all encompassing. And we don't do a good job of communicating, you know what, you can just start with 4 or 5 hours a week. Right. Do you remember how many hours you thought it was going to take versus how much it actually does?
I don't think I had any idea. Like I said, I only had 2 friends that I knew that did triathlons, and I talked to them about their training, and I didn't really know like what it was going to take. I knew I had to balance my week between the 3 disciplines, 4 if I wanted to add strength training to it, but I didn't really have any idea. And I just worked with that PT in the very, very beginning, and she kind of gave me some workouts to do, but I just kind of built slowly and kind of built up over the years. And like I said, with the summers off, my workouts were probably a little bit shorter during the school year, and then I built up more once school got out.
Yeah. As I think about it, I remember at the start that I probably started with a 5K run being my long run. So like 30 minutes, 35 minutes probably at the time was my long run. And it's not like I went from 0 hours of endurance training to 15 right away. I probably went from doing something for a half hour to 60 minutes a day to still just doing something for a half hour to 60 minutes a day, maybe even less.
Right.
So it was a total of like 4 hours, and that's what got me started. And
Right.
I built up from there, and I only built up as time allowed. So it's not
Right.
like I went from
You don't
zero.
have to do,
Yeah,
right.
you don't have to bam, 15 hours
That's
a
12
week.
hours. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people have that impression that all they hear is from people who are doing 12 to 15 hours a week. So they think that's the requirement. And it's just not.
No. Right.
Yeah. What are ways that you feel that people might sabotage themselves and prevent themselves from getting to their goals of doing a race, or maybe just getting to reach their goals in general?
Well, like I talked about a little bit before, is just sometimes you think you always have to do more. Sometimes more is not better. So I think, like you mentioned too, like the zone 2 training is kind of going in that sweet, slow zone 2 spot to kind of build, your endurance and kind of build off of that. But I think that's probably the biggest piece, is maybe doing too much, like threshold work is probably the easiest way, or the most common way that people kind of sabotage their training, I think.
Mm. And what would that, for somebody who's never experienced it, what would that result in for you or somebody else?
Well, for me, I have hypothyroidism and Hashimoto. So, like, I have an autoimmune disease. So, if I do too much of that high intensity training, I'm wiped out and drained, and you know, I can't help anyone, like my kids, it just completely wipes me out. So that that's kind of how I'm able to do endurance training, is that, the zone 2 and the low intensity stuff, and then the speed stuff sprinkled in is kind of how it's enabled me to kind of be successful in triathlons, I think.
Mm. Yeah. And health wise, I've talked a little bit about how, Peter Attia and I think Inigo San Milan, both of them are very, very high performance oriented people. One is a doctor. The other would be like a kind of a practicing GP and focused on longevity and health, but he comes from a big endurance background. And then the other coaches pro cycling teams. And in both cases, they say like the cornerstone of health and performance is the vast majority of your training should be quite easy. And
Right.
That's how you become metabolically fit. And that's what leads to good health long-term, good cardiovascular health, and good performance. So it's like this nice 1-2 punch. And I'm surprised that it's so hard for people, because you're starting from scratch, and most people aren't very metabolically fit because we just don't have a reason to be in this day and age. So it's hard at the outset, but I love it because it's easy. Like, it's super easy. You go out
Right.
for, I remember long rides, even training for Ironman. It was like 4 hours just listening to podcasts, and that was a super effective day. It didn't feel hard at all.
Right.
So once you get that heart rate down after that first learning curve, totally enjoyable.
Right. And I think that kind of keeps people in the sport too. Because, if your workouts are a drag and you don't want to do them because they're too intense, I think, having those easy workouts is what keeps people doing them.
Mm. What makes you smile the most about where you've got to in the sport? Like, when are the times that you have a huge smile on your face that you can't hold back?
Well, like my last race, one of my students was volunteering with her mom. Her mom was a volunteer at the race, and one of my art students that she's going into 3rd grade, she was there, and just seeing her cheer me on and her big smile, I think that kind of melts your heart a little bit. But just seeing my kids at the race too, and kind of showing them that, you can start at, ground zero and kind of build up. And, if you work hard, you can kind of meet the goals that you want to meet. And so it's always fun to have them cheering mom at the races. And that's kind of one of my big whys, is, to show my kids that anything's possible.
Mm. Have you been able to include them at all in your training or racing or traveling?
Well, they come to a lot, but when I first started, my older two were always my spotters on the paddleboard or kayak or something. But one of my twins, he's 6, Jack. I think he's gonna be my future training buddy because he's always at my side. He's like, "What are we doing today, Bob?" So if I run it, he's on his bike, or he asks me about my workout, and he's totally into it. So I know someday he'll be right there doing Ironman or something with me. But my twins just completed their first duathlon, so that was super cute to see them kind of join in a little bit and have them get their medals and kind of feel what that race feels like. So that was I think that was probably even more fun than doing the race myself, was having them experience it. So
that's really cool. What is the most important thing that listeners need to know about you and the success that you've had getting into the sport? And it's clear from following you online that you absolutely love it. But what do people need to understand about you that might help them go, hey, I could do this?
I think there's a balance of a big piece is just being consistent, so you can kind of build on every workout and build that foundation. But I think another big piece is, when I first started, I was like, oh, I can't miss a workout. And I've learned over the past year or two that if I miss one workout, it's not gonna do any detraining. So if life is busy, and I always want my kids to know they come first. So if something comes up with the kids and I miss a workout, it's not a big deal. So I think it's a balance of, yes, you got to be consistent, but if you do miss a workout, it's not the end of the world. So, don't put too much stress on yourself to, complete those workouts every day, but just do the best that you can. And anything that you do is better than nothing. So yeah.
Yeah. And we actually build into our app that it's okay to miss several workouts even in a week, because what I believe is that, let's say you're busy, like you're super busy, and you have a day that is just an absolute, we can swear, are there kids in the room?
No.
Okay. So let's say there's a day that's just an absolute shit show,
right,
and you can't get in a workout.
Yeah.
It happens. You're not doing yourself any favors to get up at 3:30 in the morning or stay up till 11 at night to get in that workout to make sure that you don't detrain, because you're just adding enormous amounts of stress on top of stress, and your body's not going to be able to absorb it. If anything, it might actually go the other way. So when people say to me, oh, I'm super busy at work, how do I build my training around it? You don't. You just don't, because it's not the times that you miss a workout are the times that your body needs you to miss a workout. So it's this perfect self-managing thing where, hey, if you can't get it in, great. Does that mean that you aren't going to be a world champion? Probably. But world champions, I've trained with a lot of them. I know a lot of them, even at the age group level. These are people that have set up their entire lives for not ever missing a workout. And that means that a lot of them don't work, period. A lot of them have spouses that do all of the working, or a big majority of the load. The load is elsewhere, so that they can constantly recover. And for most people, that's just not the setup. So you have to go as far as you're able to within a realistic time commitment.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always like asking a question along these lines, because it usually results in a really good answer. Let's say that you are czar of achievement. You are the boss of helping everyone in the world achieve more, be it personally, family-wise, athletically, whatever it is. And you can change one thing that everyone has to follow or get better at to help them achieve more in life. What do you change? What do you change for everyone?
I think it would be just nutrition for everybody. I think nutrition and diet goes a long ways. I think that's kind of my key to my success too, is with my autoimmune issues. I think my diet kind of helps me do what I want to do in life. Because I look back where, when I was first diagnosed, and, I wasn't in a good place. I was so lethargic and tired all the time. And I think just making some nutrition changes kind of changed my life a ton. And so I think if everyone kind of focused on what was going into their body and, what they were eating, I think it would improve everyone's life.
So what are some of the principles that you use?
Well, the first one, probably biggest one I noticed is I went gluten-free. There's a big correlation with hypothyroidism and gluten.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was probably the biggest change or difference that I noticed as soon as I went gluten-free. Kind of that brain fog that goes along with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's kind of went away, and I had more energy and less aches and pains and less inflammation. So just kind of, I found a holistic doctor and kind of worked with them a little bit. And yeah. So.
Same. I think I lost 15 or 20 pounds. And instead of being sore for 3 days after any workout, I was sore for like 4 hours, maybe, if at all.
Right.
Yeah. Inflammation went down, aches and pains went down. And even now I kind of gained some weight back, and I'm not really looking at it from the standpoint of, oh my goodness, I must be eating more, that's why I'm gaining weight. I'm trying to find what are those things that are exasperating the inflammation or triggers. Yeah. Of like, okay, why am I sore? I don't think it's because I'm working out that much harder. I do think that we just have a lot of things that creep into your diet that are hard to identify that cause problems. And it's not always gluten or dairy or like the big things. I think there's just so much that eliminating something can make a big difference if you get that something right and identify it. What else?
I think sleep is huge. Sleep and hydration, but I think sleep is probably one of the biggest things too, where especially when you have little kids at home and if you're working. When I was training for my 70.3 last year, so I was waking up super early to get my workouts done, and then I was taking some power naps at lunchtime because it was a struggle to do it all. But the PE teacher texted me, he's like, "Hey, you sleeping in your car?" And I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
I was picturing you as George Costanza, as like under the desk and like curled up in a blanket, like nobody look under Mrs. Hankamp's desk.
Yeah. But I mean, you do what you gotta do, and so it's hard to get it all in. But yeah, and I think sleep is huge, and just for recovery and just your mental state. But yeah, I think that's another big factor: diet and sleep.
That's great. Okay, let's wrap it up with, let's say people are thinking, hey, I'm a busy mom too. I kind of want to do this. Still not sure if I can. What message do you send to them?
I say you only live once, so why not start now? It's better to start now than wait. So that was kind of my philosophy. Like, get the ball rolling. Why put it off? And even if it's just little pieces now, those little pieces will kind of build over the years. And if you just start with like a duathlon or a super sprint or something, and just kind of get a taste for it, and then you can kind of see, like, I was 100% hooked after my first one. So start small and just kind of build over the months and years. So yeah.
I dig it. Where should people follow you?
I am try_mom_of4 on Instagram.
Of 4, the number 4, right?
Yes.
Yep.
4. Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Well, awesome, Ashley. Thank you for being a part of the movers and helping spread the vibe. As I've talked about a lot, I think with you and starting to talk about publicly, I think it's really good to see all different types of people that are loving the sport, clearly loving the sport, having a great time with it, because it inspires other people who are very similar to them to go, hey, I can do that too. So I think obviously, based on your follower count, like there's a lot of people that are identifying with what you're experiencing and the fun that you're having. So you're putting good vibes out into the world.
Thanks. No, I enjoy it, and I enjoy connecting with others and kind of helping others and inspiring others to kind of get started too. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you for watching, Motivators. If you're looking for a training plan that incorporates these methods that is as good as a one-on-one coach but as inexpensive as doing it yourself, check out our Motiv training app that covers triathlons, running races, duathlons, swim runs, and cycling events. There's a link in the description below where you can check out your customized training plan for free. Also, if you rather listen to these tips, we also publish these videos in podcast format on the Taren's Motive Method podcast, so you can check that out. And if you don't want to do either of those things, but you found this video helpful, hit us up with a virtual high five by smashing the like button below. Later, motivators.